The US lifts some Hong Kong sanctions but refuses to restore autonomous trade status. Police arrest dozens in latest anti-phone scam operation. And Donald Trump points finger at Canada for polluting many parts of the US. Good evening. Welcome to TVB News. The US State Department said on Saturday that an executive order that revoked Hong Kong's special trading status remains in place. This follows Washington's decision to let President Donald Trump's 2020 national emergency declaration over the city to lapse. In the latest statement to the Associated Press Saturday, the US State Department says Trump has partially removed sanctions and trade restriction imposed by allowing the national emergency to end. But other parts of the executive order, including stripping Hong Kong of its special trading status, remains in effect. Gloria Feng has more.
The U.S. State Department statement says it stands by the order which states that Hong Kong is no longer sufficiently autonomous to justify differential treatment in relation to the PRC under particular U.S. laws. On Friday, the U.S. Office of Foreign Assets Control said the national emergency declared in the executive order had expired and it delisted people who were sanctioned under the order. But it said people who remain sanctioned under the Hong Kong Autonomy Act of 2020 have been added to a different sanction list. Hence, 39 of 48 originally sanctioned individuals, including current and former chief executives John Lee and Carrie Lam, will continue to be sanctioned. However, sanctions against Secretary for Justice Paul Lam, former Commissioner of Police Raymond Siu, and 7 others have been dropped. Commentator Professor Lau Siu Kai believes the U.S. government is performing a balancing act.
I think the United States wants to take a small step to implement the agreement with President Xi Jinping and President Trump as to with regard to building a constructive strategic stability relationship with China. But at the same time, the United States does not want to really give people the impression that it has abandoned the strategy of containing China, or to allow the anti-China elements in the States, which is very strong, to oppose this move.
Gloria Feng, TVB News.
During the prime-time address to the nation, US President Donald Trump revisited his claims, alleging China had meddled in the 2020 election and obtained over 200 million voter records. However, Beijing calls the assertions groundless and entirely fabricated and insists it never had any interest in interfering with US presidential elections. Trump also quips about a US-China World Cup bid when sitting alongside FIFA President Gianni Infantino at a reception in New York Friday.
We do in China, United States, so you have a nice short flight in between games, you know. The players would love that.
This amid CNN reports that the US planning for President Xi Jinping's state visit in September was continuing apace. White House officials offered no answer when asked about any planned repercussions for China in response to Trump's so-called election data breach. Secretary for Security Chris Tang says the government could improve their work on fire prevention. Tang says authorities plan to introduce legislative reforms to enhance fire safety in Hong Kong. The comments come a day after the independent committee's legal team delivered its closing submission at the final public hearing investigating the Taipo fire. Sources say the committee may delay its report submission to the chief executive until mid-October due to the time required to process a substantial amount of documents and evidence. Mimosa Ngai reports.
In his closing address, Victor Dawes, the committee's senior counsel, states the government bears partial responsibility for the tragedy. He says the disastrous event exposed systematic weaknesses among the official bureaus, including the Fire Services Department. Speaking on a radio program, Secretary for Security Chris Tan says authorities could improve their work on fire prevention, such as acting more proactively in referring and following any complaints the FSD has received. While he notes the government has a clear division of labor, Tan says a new mindset needs to be adopted. The security chief also says the Bureau will conduct a series of legislative reforms to strengthen fire safety in buildings by increasing the penalty and the scope of responsibility. Mums 9, TVB News.
Secretary for Security Chris Tang says authorities will conduct tests at the Huanggang Port's Hong Kong area before the facility is officially launched. The government passed the Huanggang Port Bill on Friday. The government will take control of the Huanggang Port's Hong Kong area starting from July the 31st. Tang says authorities will test out different equipment at the port and will conduct a drill with their Shenzhen counterparts. Separately, the National Security Police arrested owners and staff members from 2 independent bookstores. Asked how could owners ensure their books are lawful, Tang says booksellers should have an idea of what titles they are selling to customers. Police have arrested 61 people over the past 2 weeks in a territory-wide anti-phone scam operation involving more than $31 million. Luna Bai has more.
Police say more than 16,600 fraud cases were reported in the first 5 months of this year. More than 1 in 5 involved telephone scams, up over 46% from the same period last year, with losses reaching $720 million. In response, officers launched Operation Pebble Step, targeting phone fraud and money laundering activities. The operation resulted in the arrest of 61 people and the detection of 54 phone scam cases involving about $31 million over the past 2 weeks. Chief Inspector Ho Mingwei says fake customer service scams remain the most common form, and Guess Who I Am scams, where fraudsters impersonate relatives or acquaintances, have nearly doubled this year, with many elderly people being targeted. Police also uncovered a suspected low-interest loan scam syndicate. Officers say the group operated a call center posing as staff from finance companies or banks and uses scripted conversations to deceive people into applying for loans. More than 240 victims were deceived, losing about $2 million.
I advise the citizen not to make the loan application from the unlicensed finance institutions. And moreover, when they pick up the phone, I hope that they can make sure the phone call, the identity of the callers, and not to provide their more personal detailed information to them.
Police remind the public to verify suspicious calls and messages by using the Scammeter application or calling the helpline 18222. Luna Bai, TVB News.
US President Donald Trump threatens to add new tariffs on Canada as forest wildfire smoke now spreads across the US, choking a number of major cities. Joe Lee reports.
Canadian wildfire smoke has spread across the US Midwest and East Coast. In Washington, D.C., haze blanketed landmarks including the Lincoln Memorial, the White House, and the Washington Monument, resulting in very low visibility. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency cited Washington, Chicago, and Detroit as the hardest hit by smoke. Forecast suggests New York City's air quality to worsen again on Saturday. Officials warn that long-term exposure to smoky conditions can complicate existing health problems and lead to chronic and deadly issues, including respiratory illness, cardiovascular, and neurological diseases, as well as premature death. In response to smoke, U.S. President Donald Trump made a social media post Friday that blamed Canada for its forest management and threatened additional tariffs on Canada. "We're holding Canada responsible," the president posted on social media Truth Social. He added that the U.S. is being unnecessarily invaded by filthy, polluted, and unhealthy air, the quality of which is dangerous and totally unacceptable. However, when asked about a Michigan lawmaker's criticism about the smoke, Ontario Premier Doug Ford noted Canada has helped the U.S. fight fires in the past. He said if there's some politicians out there chirping away, maybe what you should do rather than complain is send support. Joe Lee, TVB News.
And still ahead. Andy Burnham undertakes his first UK Labour leader engagement with a visit to Kent. India builds its first hydrogen-powered train. And bad weather makes Chongqing landslide rescue effort difficult. Welcome back. British Andy Burnham visited Gravesend in Kent to deliver remarks on his first engagement as the leader of the country's governing Labour Party.
I am setting out a new direction. It's wonderful to be able to be here with you on this really special day for me. I've had a long and winding journey to this, this moment in my life, but it is a big moment in my life. I know many of you, I'm seeing friends and faces from the past in this room because I've been in this party, well, I joined it 40 years ago, and so many people have helped me on my way to this particular moment. What I can say is I'm not going to let this job change me. I'll remain on the ground, I will remain close to people, I will listen to what they say, I will put us back in touch with ordinary people. I will give it my all.
Burnham was officially declared leader of Britain's governing Labour Party on Friday, promising to bring hope to the British people and purpose to their floundering government. The former mayor of Greater Manchester will take office as Prime Minister next week after he secured nominations from 379 of 403 Labour lawmakers in the House of Commons. Separate Israeli strikes in Gaza, including on mourners leaving a funeral in central Gaza, kills at least 12 people and wounds more than a dozen others, according to local health officials. An Israeli drone strike in central Gaza killed at least 7 people and wounded another 22, according to Al-Da Hospital, where the casualties were taken. Al-Da Hospital in the Nusayrat refugee camp confirms the number of casualties, saying people were struck following the burial of 2 Palestinians killed in the strike early on Friday. Hamas says in a statement shortly after the strike that it was a systematic and continuous violation of the ceasefire agreement. The Israeli military says of the earlier strike that killed 2 in central Gaza that it had struck the area and says it was targeting a Hamas militant without elaborating. A 7.3 earthquake hits the Mexico-Guatemala border, injuring 2 people with no reports of severe damage. The earthquake struck the southern Mexican Pacific coast, right on the border with Guatemala, and was felt from Mexico City to El Salvador. Officials in the Mexican border town of Suchate, near the river that separates Mexico and Guatemala, say they are monitoring a possible tsunami threat that could see waves as tall as 1 meter rush to shore. In Guatemala City, the shake frightened residents during the morning rush hour, prompting many to leave offices and other buildings as a precaution. The authorities say there are no reports of injuries or damage, though social media footage shows the quake triggered several landslides south of the city. The region is prone to seismic activity. In 2017, hundreds were killed in a 7.1 magnitude earthquake in Mexico City. India rolled out its first indigenously built hydrogen-powered train, a move aimed at expanding the use of clean energy in its vast rail network. Tracy Furness has more.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the Namo Green Rail at Haryana's Jind railway station Friday. Namo is a common abbreviation of Modi's first and last names. The train, made up of 2 hydrogen-powered driving cars and 8 passenger coaches, will operate in the northern state of Haryana. It can run at speeds of up to 75 kilometres per hour and carry a maximum of about 2,600 passengers, railway officials say. This is a very significant day in the direction of self-reliant India and sustainable development, Modi says in a post on X. Ashwini Vaishnaw, Indian Railway Minister, says hydrogen is seen as a new form of energy. India has taken many new initiatives in the production of hydrogen, and the National Hydrogen Mission is also working in this direction. To use hydrogen in transportation, it is necessary to develop the technology. As part of this effort, railway engineers in India have developed this technology. He says these are hydrogen cylinders. The hydrogen fuel cells generate electricity. After that, converters installed further ahead drive the motor. He adds, the complete system development has been done in India and its testing has been carried out by the world's best agencies, and it's completely safe and certified. Loco pilot Rajesh Kumar adds the train is powerful and soundproof and has zero pollution. Another loco pilot, Gagandeep Singh, says, we are very fortunate that we got the opportunity to operate the first run of the hydrogen trains and experience a new technology. The supply of diesel and petrol is gradually decreasing, so we are using this new fuel, hydrogen, which is produced from water. Its byproduct is also water vapor, so it's a very clean fuel. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Rescue crews race to find survivors from a landslide in the southwestern Chinese city of Chongqing that has killed at least 8 people, while 34 remain missing. Gloria Feng has more.
Rescue operations following a landslide in Pengshui County on the outskirts of Chongqing Municipality are made difficult as the area records more than 19 centimeters of rain overnight. Rescue teams entered the site as the rain eases to conduct on-the-ground inspections of the collapsed buildings and riverbank areas. The event has already claimed 8 lives, with 34 still missing as crews continue to dig through rocks, soil, and rubble in the hopes of finding survivors. 10 people were rescued and sent to hospital, while more than 1,100 have been relocated. As rescue operations are being carried out on one side of the massive rock, teams will later need to look beneath them. These boulders could become unstable, though, potentially putting rescue workers in danger. Once the search of the surrounding areas is completed, officers will drill into the boulders and fill the holes with explosive to break them apart. The landslide Friday morning contained about 18,000 cubic meters of rocks and debris, and the largest single rock was around 3,000 cubic meters, officials say. The massive amounts of rock and soil were washed down a slope, burying more than 10 residential buildings, state broadcaster CCTV says. China's National Development and Reform Commission is allocating 30 million yuan to support the restoration of infrastructure and public service facilities following the disaster. Gloria Feng, TVB News.
Secretary for Transport and Logistics Mabel Chan says the government will invite ride-hailing platforms to apply for service licenses in August. This comes after the Legislative Council has completed examining the subsidiary law on the regulation of ride-hailing services. Chan says platforms can receive their licenses in November at the earliest. While the license quota is capped at 10,000 in the initial phase, Chan stresses drivers must secure a third-party risk insurance before obtaining their permits. She says such policy will prevent grey areas because drivers can simultaneously provide their services on multiple ride-hailing platforms. The Customs and Excise Department arrests 3 people on suspicion of drug trafficking after seizing about 131 kilograms of alleged ketamine. Through intelligence exchange with mainland anti-smuggling authorities and risk assessment, the Customs Department inspected an air cargo consignment arriving from Germany at the Hong Kong airport on Tuesday. Declared as carrying rock sugar, officers found about 131 kilograms of suspected ketamine inside the consignment. A 58-year-old man was arrested when he went to collect the parcel. After investigation, the department caught 2 more Bangladeshi suspects in Yuan Long on Thursday. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.